everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Samantha Anderson. I am a freelance artist and teacher hoping to inspire creativity. If you would like more videos like these, please take a second to like and subscribe down below. It really helps in the algorithm of YouTube to help get my videos seen to more people. If you want to receive notifications of when I go live, please make sure to hit the bell and choose all notifications. If you have any questions during or after the class, make sure to pop a comment down below and I will answer it as soon as I can. I'll be leaving timestamps down below so you can skip ahead to the start of class, but I will be sharing announcements as well as supplies, so make sure to stick around for that. If interested in learning more about my classes, please follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and feel free to check me out on Patreon, where I teach exclusive classes to those who support me. In Patreon, I also give traceables for all of my live classes, including this one. Lastly, if you would like to share your work after class with me and others who painted along with us, please head over to Facebook, as I have an artist community where you can share your finished painting with us. I'll leave links for all of that in the description box below. Thanks for joining me, and let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to another live class. Thank you for joining me. I am excited to get started. We have a fun class today. Yeah, welcome in. Let me know where you're painting from. I'm gonna go over supplies real fast, and then we will get to painting. So yeah, here I have my traceable. If you are a patron, you'll have access to all of that. If you're not a patron, I have pinned a post where you can get access to that. If you don't want the traceable, or you don't want to use it, you just want to draw it on, that is totally fine. You can also, this one you can also draw on or just paint on as we go. So you don't need to put on the traceable right now. We'll be doing the sky, the background, the water, the grass, and then you can just paint this in after you do that. You don't have to go over, you don't have to put it in right now. So it's totally up to you how you want to do that. For me and everyone else using a reference for the traceable, we'll be just blocking in the shapes with a liner brush first in black, just so we don't lose those shapes. But if you want to put it in later, that is totally fine, and you can do that. Okay. For the colors, I'm gonna get out my black and my white. I have my my raw umber. I also have a burnt umber just in case I want to use a lighter brown for this and I don't feel like lightening it up. So I have that out, but I may or may not use it. And then I have my green. I have a very bright green, but if you want to use a different green, just use whatever green you have. And then you can just adjust the color from there. I also have my yellow, my orange, and then I have my red just in case I need to darken the orange or tint the brown, or just use the red in a different way. And then I have two different blues. I have my ultramarine blue and my phthalo blue. The sky blue is a little bit more of an ultramarine, and then the water blue, it has a little bit more of a like a teal color to it, just slightly. So you can get out your phthalo blue if you want. If you don't really care that much about specific colors, then you can just use the same blue for both the sky and the water, and it will look totally fine. It'll look beautiful either way. I am all about really trying to look and challenge myself to really get the colors that I see. It's a really good challenge to work on doing that, because you'll learn more about painting and more about color theory as you try to really hone into the colors that you're seeing, and not just the colors that you think are there. I think you are a wonderful artist. Thank you. Yeah, welcome in. Comment, say hi. I'm not here alone. I know it. I see you're there. But yeah, so those are the colors that we're going to be using. So don't let the bottles deceive you. They're not the flow acrylics that are fairly watered down. They are full body acrylics. The brush set that I'm mainly using today is from Grabby. It's these light ones. And then I do have a couple other ones that I might use. I typically will use my my large filbert for the background, but you can use any large brush. And then I also have a few other brushes around for different things. You'll probably need a flat brush for the bench to get in those corners, or you'll just need a very small round brush. So it's up to you what you want, but I will probably be using a flat brush. I have my filbert, and then for the tree, you can do the tree one of two ways. I mean, you can do it many ways, but what I would be suggesting is if you are new and you are just trying to get skill, you could use a bigger brush and just like a Bob Ross style and just kind of get a bigger brush and stamp on all the leaves. If you want to do a little bit more detail, you could use a round brush and kind of put them in, I wouldn't say individually, but just like clumping them together so that they have a little bit more detail, because this tree is a little bit closer to us than a lot of the trees that we typically paint. So it's gonna have a little bit more detail, especially up here on the left and down here on the right. So depending on your skill level and what you want to achieve in this painting, you'll kind of pick the brush that best suits you, okay? And then I have a very small brush for tiny details that we may or may not use. And then I always, my brushes are rolling away from me. And then I have a liner brush for detail work as well. These are just really nice detail brushes for getting those thin lines, and also any branches that we want to do. If you don't have a thin brush, get yourself a liner brush. Get yourself a set of liner brushes. They come in handy. You will use them all the time. Probably. I do, at least. Okay. I also have a palette knife, a dirty palette knife at that. I have a small palette knife to mix paint ahead of time. This is really, really important for beginners who don't quite know the basics of blending yet. Being able to mix your colors ahead of time is really, really helpful and crucial to being able to blend well if you're new. If you are not new and you're just chiming in because you want to paint, you already know how to do this. So you won't need to necessarily do that. But palette knives are great because you don't dirty your water, which I need to go get some. I always do this. Not always, but I will forget the water. But you won't dirty your water before you even start painting if you do it with a palette knife, because you can just wipe the palette knife off and then you're fine. Let's see. Other things, I am using an 11 by 14 canvas as always. You can use whatever size canvas you want. Just know if you're using a size bigger, it might take you longer to paint it and you might have to pause the video, which we are on YouTube. So you can do that. You'll just be behind the live stream if you're watching live. Does anybody have any questions? I'm gonna go grab some water. Post your questions down below if you have any, and I will be right back. All right. All right, if you have any questions, let me know. I think I pressed the add button on accident, so let me know if the ad is over. I didn't mean to do that. I have a couple announcements. We are on week 3 of our Patreon class. So in Patreon, every week for the highest tier, I will paint for an hour and 15 minutes live. And this is what we just finished. We have one more class to finish up the the cloth, and then maybe any other details that we see. But we're fairly close to being done with this, and I really love how it came out. I think the flowers look pretty, and I'm really happy about that. So if you want to join for that class, that is available in my Patreon for the highest tier, the $20 Cobalt tier. And then this is a little sneak peek for next month. If you are a magenta tier, or you want to join for the magenta tier, which is all of the tutorials, the exclusive tutorials that I make just for my patrons. They're not live, they're not available anywhere else. You're gonna get a sneak peek of what we're painting then. And this is what we're painting in December. So don't join now for this. You're not gonna see this in Patreon yet. This is what we're painting. It'll be available the second Friday of December. So the second Friday of December, this will be available to paint. And I love how this came out. So if you love squirrels, if you love animals, if you love painting fur, or you want to learn how to paint fur, this is a very fun class. And you might, if you follow my my Facebook, you might see a different photo posted, because that was the original photo. And then when I went to sit down and paint it, I was like, I'm not really inspired, but I want to paint this. And so I just added a different background. So that's what we're painting in Patreon next month. I hope you join me. But for now, we are painting this beautiful bench on a lake. And if no one has any questions, we can get started. So excited to cut the live. Yay! Thank you so much for learning so much from you. You are very, very welcome. Speaking of learning, let's get started. So for this, we are going to paint the background first, which includes the sky and the water. So go ahead and grab all your stuff, all your painting supplies, all of that, and let's get started. I'm going to get out my ultramarine blue and my white. And then I'm also going to get out my brown, my raw umber. I'm going to get out my raw umber, so the darker brown. Excuse the noise that it just created. Jeez. Get that off. I love how easy these things are to clean. It just dries and then you just pop it right off. And that's pretty much it for the colors right now. We're going to start at the top, and we should only have to do one coat of the sky, and I'm hoping that will do that. I'm gonna get out a little bit of black. If you have done your sketch, you're gonna want to get just a little bit of black and go over the outline. You don't have to go over the outline of the tree if you don't really care where it is specifically, but it's totally up to you. I'm just gonna take my liner brush and a little bit of black, really water it down so that it flows really, really easy, and I'm just going to do this line just so I know where it is. And when I'm drawing on this, I'm not drawing on the outline, I'm drawing like on the inside of the outline. And this is so when I go over it with that blue, when we get to it, I'll still be able to see it through that blue. I think I might just put in the brown now, actually. And this is only if you've pre-done it, like if you've drawn it out. If you don't want to pre-draw it out, then you can just kind of wait. I'm just going over it with brown. And the brush that I'm using is my flat brush. And that makes it really easy to get in the corners of the bench without changing to a different brush. If you're not good at straight lines and you're drawing it in, use a ruler. Just use a ruler. It's not cheating, you know? You make it easy on yourself. And if the line isn't perfect, that's okay, because we can always make everything like a tad bit bigger afterwards, and we can kind of fix any lines that aren't correct, so to speak. Whenever I'm doing lines like this that tend to be straight or long, I will try to hold my brush further, like not so close, but further from the top of it, and then you can get some straight lines without even moving your arm. So I'm resting my hand on my wrist, and I'm only moving my fingers. I'm just contracting my fingers like this, and it creates straight lines. So I don't even have to do much to create a straight line. Okay. That's pretty much that. Good enough. All right. And if you want to put in the tree, you can. I'm not going to, because I know the general area, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I'll rinse that brush off, and now that I have that, I'm gonna grab whatever brush you are using for the your background. I'm gonna go ahead and pre-mix my sky color because I don't want it to be that dark. Okay, so I'm gonna take a bunch of white and a little bit of blue, and I'm gonna get out my phthalo blue too, because I do think that even the sky has a little bit more of a greenish pretty color than just this blue. I don't know about you, but I love the color phthalo blue. I think it's so pretty. That's pretty good. I think I need a little bit more color. So I'm going to add a little bit more of phthalo blue. And I think that that is pretty close. I do think I need to make more of this. So this is going over the whole top half of this canvas. So I'm thinking I'm gonna need a little bit more. The other nice thing that palette knives give you is the assurance that you're not going to have blue streaks in your brush before you start, which is really nice. So, which if you're trying to get a nice smooth blend, it's essential. So I think that is good. The lower half is going to be blended with white, so I think that that is fine. Speaking of white, let me grab some more. Okay. Let's go ahead and start. I'm going to grab my dry brush. I'm going to dip it in some water. And I'm just going to do the top of this first so that I don't forget it, because that happens. So I'm just going to take this color and put it over the whole top part of this. And whenever I'm painting big sections, I really like to just go in with it and blend all of that. So as you get about halfway down the sky, make sure to go over your entire sky all the way across. And even though it's the same color, you want to make sure you don't have big clumps of paint anywhere or streaks anywhere. So just going all the way across the entire thing really does make sure that all of that is just blended and mixed together. And once you get about halfway down, maybe a little bit more than halfway, you're gonna want to start putting in some of that white. So I added a little bit of white to the blue that I'm already working with. And I'm gonna start doing X's kind of going up. Instead of just doing this, go like doing an X, I'm gonna turn my arm so that I'm kind of going up and I'm flicking up into that blue. I'm gonna go a little bit more white. You're just gonna blend up into that. Some big strokes. And then what you can do is you can do a bit bigger strokes. And then after it's kind of like blended pretty okay, you can go across the whole thing, starting from kind of that middle area and go all the way up and start just blending it all together. You'll have a nice, you should have a nice gradient. And I'm gonna go even lighter of this white. And blend that in just at the bottom. And I'm gonna do that again. I'm gonna go all the way across, blend all that white together. Maybe I'll do a couple more strokes going up a little bit to blend it up. And then go all the way across. Nice big even strokes all the way up. Not all the way up, but maybe up about halfway, because the top is probably drying out pretty well at this point. So now you have this kind of misting effect going on. We're gonna take, I'm not gonna rinse out the blue on my brush. I'm just gonna take some of this brown and mix it onto my brush. So that blue and white that was like already on my brush, I'm just going to put in a little bit of a mountain, and I'm going to blend it down with some white. So I'm just going to put on this white right here and blend that into what I just put on the canvas. And I'm gonna go with this blue just a little bit darker, maybe a little bit water, a little bit more white. And adding in that blue makes it look a little bit more misty. And we can always add mist as we go. I'm gonna add another little thing here, little mountain range. Go in with a little bit of water. And you want the top of it to be a little bit darker. So if there's a little bit of a line there, that's okay. And I'm going to go into my white and blend it a little bit. And I'm just, most of the time when I'm blending, I'm doing the little crisscross motion. And if it's in small spaces, then it's really small crisscross motions. All right, now I'm going to grab a little bit of black and brown. This next one's going to be a lot darker. You're just gonna, and then it kind of does like a drop off right there ish. It drops off right about where the bench is. All right, come back with a little bit more black because I think it needs to be a little bit darker. You don't see a lot of this, so, and we are going to be adding some texture on it, so if it's not perfectly blended, that's totally fine. It doesn't need to be. All right. All right, I'm just kind of getting some of this off the canvas. Essentially, I've just got a little bit of a wet brush and then I'm painting it down. It'll be easier to blend. It'll be easier to get that line off of there if it's not dry. So that's roughly where it is, right? All right, so I'm just gonna let this dry so that I can put on some other things. I wanna go ahead and mix up my blue. I'm gonna mix up my blue for the water now. And let's see. I'm gonna make this blue a little bit darker. I'm going to take some of this phthalo blue and I'm going to add just the tiniest bit of brown to it, and that will bring out like the teal in it just a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. It's a really pretty color. Okay, that's perfect. And I'm going to add white to it over here just so you can really see what the color is. I need to get my other white out. So this is the color when you lighten it. It's very pretty. All right. I'm gonna get out my other white. Most of my colors are Hippie Crafter acrylics, but sometimes I will run out of certain colors before they send me new ones. So I have my trusty handy dandy white from Liquitex, which works just as good. But they're both handy to have, so I use both brands. All right, so we're gonna add a little bit of detail to this one, a little bit of like trees and whatnot. They're going to be very, very dark green. So I'm going to, mine's still a little bit wet, so I'm just waiting for it all to dry. We're gonna be adding the mist and stuff after this is all dry, before we add the tree. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to be adding like kind of the white mist afterwards, okay? I'm going to be adding this brown to this green, as well as a little bit of black and a little bit of blue. The black will kind of darken it, and the blue will make it a little bit more like of a forest green. Okay. So for that green, I have, my green is very bright, so I have green and brown to make it more of like a hooker's green or like a forest green, and I add that blue in there. If you have like a green that would be fine for that, I would just add black to it and you'll probably be fine. You don't have to add all the other colors to it. That's just what I'm using for my specific green. And I'm going to use my filbert, and I'm going to pounce it. I'm going to dab it on the edge of the palette so that it kind of breaks apart. See that? It's all kind of broken apart. So I'm going to grab my green that way, and I'm going to just start adding this. You won't be able to see it too much, but I do want to add texture to the top of this mountain because it is supposed to be a little closer, and you might see treetops. If that makes sense. I'm just using that as a way to add texture and treetops. All right, so up close, that is what mine looks like. If it focuses. I don't know if it's gonna focus. Hello, focus. There you go. That's what mine looks like. Up close, it just looks a little messy, but from far away, it looks like trees. A lot of painting is just painting the illusion of things. So this is us painting the illusion of trees. over there. Now I'm going to, we are now going to start from the bottom and work our way back up. But before I do that, I'm going to grab some white and just add this to this area, mainly because I pulled that dark over and it's going to be harder to, I don't want to have to do a second coat of the water. So by doing a first coat of just plain white right here, it'll make that easier. You should have probably put up tape. Sometimes I forget tape exists in these. Water lines are helpful with tape. Okay. So now that I have that, alright, I'm going to go down here and start with this, my darkest blue. And I'm just going to go right over that. Right over my bench. That's why we did that. And I'm going to go about 1/3 of the way up. I'm going to go all the way across. And I'm going to start mixing in my white. And we're going to do the same thing, and we're just going to blend it down. Go into your white. And I'm just continuing to add white to the canvas. I'm not rinsing out my brush. Now I'm going to go all the way across. And I'm going to start blending these two parts by just doing the same thing we did in the sky and like kind of brushing up. And now I'm going to brush into the dark one. Going all the way across. And I'm going to go back into some of this dark down here. And once you're done blending it, again, you're just going to go right across, all the way across the whole thing. like that. Make sure I have this side done. All right, y'all still with me? And this is essentially where my thing is. Don't worry if you covered up this. I can still see these two lines, and I know roughly where that one is. So you'll be able to kind of figure it out. But if we didn't draw that in beforehand, you would not have been able to see it. But that being said, I am ready to kind of move on. I'm gonna go. We're gonna go ahead and put in the reflection right now. So while it's kind of still wet, I'm just going to a little bit of water and that same kind of green. Just try to follow the same shapes that you have above it. And once you get that in there, you can take a little bit of water. Take a little bit of water and then just blend it upwards. You should still be able to do that because there is, because it is a little bit still damp. I'm gonna come behind and just put in that water line a little bit more. now that this is a little bit more dry, we're going to go ahead and put in our green grass. So I'm going to grab my green and oops. And I'm also going to get out my yellow. And I'm going to mix together. There's going to be essentially two colors here. There's going to be like the base green, and then there's going to be that like light grass color that like the sun is hitting. So first we're going to make the base color, and then we're going to lighten it up with yellow and white. So I'm going to grab some brown, mix it into this green, and then I'm also going to take some yellow so I can change the color of it. I need some more brown and maybe even a tiny bit of blue, and I'm using ultramarine blue if you're wondering. And green tends to be fairly translucent, so we might have to do 2 coats of this. And so the first thing I'm going to do is get some black, and the tree I have is about right here. So I know that there is going to be a shadow that's roughly in this area. So I'm just gonna put that in. I'm gonna go into my green, and I'm just going to put this in. I've already accepted that I'm gonna have to do 2 coats because green for some reason is very translucent. Alright, don't worry too much about the overlap between the green and the blue of the water, because we're going to be putting some really bright color over there. So don't worry about that. It'll get covered up, I promise. am going to do the bottom. In terms of colors, while I think this green color was really good for the base coat, I think I am going to lighten it up just a little bit for the next part of this. Actually, I think it might be fine. So you have the base coat, and then you have like the little bit of highlight, and then you have like a lot of highlight over here. All right. While that's drying, I'm gonna go ahead and find where my where this is again, and put in some of my brown. Get that started. So start with the parts that you can see. And if you haven't put it in, and this is the first time you're putting it in, putting in your bench, figure out where you want to do it and then just go for it. You can always start small and then you can go bigger afterwards if maybe it's not long enough or it's too small. So I'm using my flat brush. And just my brown color. Alright, so for all of you who are painting along with me right now and are looking at your painting and you're like, what is this? This is called the ugly stage. It's okay that it doesn't look put together and things are not where they're supposed to be. It's okay. We will get there. Alright, so now that this is dry, I'm going to go ahead and put in another green coat. And we are going to be adding some texture to it, so it doesn't have to necessarily be as thick as the first coat. I am going to go in with some black and darken up this area. Alright, while that dries, let's go ahead and do our mist. Now mist is a fairly fun thing to do. It's got, I don't know, I think it's fun. You have to do it when it's dry, so I'm gonna get a round brush, get it just the tiniest bit wet, and grab some white. And try to roll off as much paint as you can, so it's just like, there's just like a tiny amount of paint. And start in the back where it's a little bit, oh, I think I had green in my white. Oh no. Make sure that it's pure white and you're not putting on green mist. Okay, I need to get a different white. There we go. So you're going to take this brush and you're just going to go in circles and just use this brush to create some mist. There's a lot of mist on this part of the water. It's kind of dry brushing. There's a little bit more white on the edges of this. And if you like how your water looks and you don't want to do the misting, you don't have to. It's your painting. But if you want to challenge yourself, feel free to do that too. So again, I'm just taking my dry brush and a little bit of white, and let's say, oh, that looks too much. So I'm just going to wiggle my brush and try to blend it out as much as I can. Bring it down a little bit. You can pull and push the paint. And putting this mist in really pushes back those mountains that are in the back. It really pushes them back. I'm going to put a little bit more over here. Over that area. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So feel free to take as much time with that as you need to. If you've never done it before, it can sometimes be frustrating if you don't have enough water, if you have too much water, if it's not blending. Just play around with it and just try to just relax and let it happen. All right, now we get to the fun part. We have some grass. Go ahead and grab whatever brush you want to use for the grass. I have this old filbert that's kind of frayed a little bit. I use it for fur. I use it for like grass textures. It opens up and has a lot of lines. So that's what I'm going to be doing right after. I don't know what that is. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pre-make another green that has lots of yellows in it. I'm gonna do like a medium green first, and then I'm going to make a little bit more of a yellow as we kind of move up. So just like the filbert, when we were trying to add that tree texture, I'm going to dab my brush on my palette to break up all the pieces. Just gonna break it up. You see that? So now I'm gonna grab, that's how I'm going to grab the paint. And I'm just going to, in little strokes, I'm going to add these little pieces. And you can brush up or brush down depending on how your brush does. And right now I'm just working on the little short ones. And if your brush isn't like giving you enough little tiny ones, try to add a little bit of water to your mixture, your paint, and that might help. That might help. I'm gonna grab some yellow as well as some white, and I'm going to put that over here. And I'm just brushing up. Now I'm going to grab my black and go into my black. And do the same thing except in this area. This is all the grass that is in the shade. And you can add little bits of darkness in the rest of this grass too. It's not all light. Alright, so I'm going to do a little bit more of the yellow. So I'm going to just grab my yellow and my white and a little bit of this green color, a little bit of water, and just add a little bit of light. The thing with adding light is if you don't want to add too much, because if you add too much then the darkness is gone and you're not going to have definition anymore. So I'm going to come back over the dark with some more medium tone. And this is what it looks like. So when you come over here and you've got your color, you're just going to flick up into that dark, like that. You just start adding that texture and that depth. So I'm going to rinse out my brush. And now I'm going to put in the, while that all dries, I'm going to put in the tree because we are done with the background now. I'm going to put in my tree. I'm going to do black first. Yeah, I'm going to do black first. And I'm going to go figure out where you want to go. And just place it in. And you can do this in one stroke. You just have to start flat with your brush. Start flat, and then as you go up, you're just going to turn your brush. So then by the end, it's the skinny part. And I'm just going to continue with a dark brown. And maybe a little bit of black. And continue to put out some branches. Remember that trees are not uniform and that they grow out in terms of like everything. So this is going to be the smallest part on this branch, and it's only going to get bigger. So something that is all the way out here isn't going to get skinnier. See how it got skinnier there? That's unrealistic. So it's going to slowly get bigger as it goes in, not smaller. And they also cross each other. And if you're not comfortable doing really, really fine lines with such a big brush, then I would encourage you just to switch to maybe a liner brush. Or something close to it. Which I think at this point I'm pretty much done with all of the bigger ones. Okay, I'm just going to wrap all these around the canvas. Alright, I'm going to grab my small round brush, wherever that may be, right here. And I'm going to grab my lighter brown color and start putting some of these details on here so that we can just solely focus on the tree for the last like half an hour. So I have a couple details here. that I'm going to do. One of those details is I'm going to get some black. And I'm going to put in, actually I'm going to do that after. Let's work on the wood first. So I'm going to use this lighter brown color. And just add a little bit of lighter brown to it. Try to go in the wood direction. And I'm going to add a little bit of some highlights on the wood. So I'm going to add a little bit of, I got a little bit of white and mixed it in with a tiny bit of brown, just so it's not like stark white, but it is enough to give a little highlight. I'm going to put it on the top and or like the sides of it. I'm going to take some brown and some yellow. And I'm going to just add some texture to it. Again, still going in the direction of, oops, that was a lot. Still going in the direction of the wood green. And there's a couple knots in here if you want to add those details. Part of the wood. All right, I'm going to add the black parts of the whatchamacallits, black part of the bench. I don't think I'm gonna do the bottom part. Like the bottom wood piece. It's like in the shadow anyways. Figure out where the middle is. And then if you want to add the little highlights on these pieces, then I would just grab some white. I'm going to water mine down quite a bit. I'm just going to put it on the edges of it. Now we get to focus the rest of the class on the tree. So go ahead and grab some more of this yellow and brown. And we are going to put some light on this tree. Put a little bit more black. On this side. And I'm going to darken up the branches and maybe add a few more. I'm just going to add as many as you want to spend the time to do. Obviously, the more branches you have, I think the more realistic it's gonna look. So it just depends on how much time you want to spend on it. As you get up top, you're not going to need to put as many because there's more leaves that cover more of the more of the branches. So you're not going to need to be as detailed. So I'm going to go ahead and call it here, and I'm going to do the leaves, and then after the leaves I can reevaluate and see if I need to put in any more. Does that make sense? So let's go ahead and put in some lighting. First we're going to put in the back leaves. We'll put in the back leaves, and then we're going to finish up the trunk, and then we'll put in the leaves in front of that. So we're still working back to front, so we don't have to like redo things. I'm going to figure out what colors I want my leaves. I have let me make some space on my palette. I'm gonna get out my yellow as well as my orange. Let me just make some room on my palette. Okay, I'm gonna do, now most of these leaves are the same colors, but there are hints of green in some, there are hints of a little bit more of orange in some. So we're gonna make 3 different colors, all practically the same color, but little hints of orange and green. So we have, I don't know why I did that because I'm going to mix the main color and then just mix different colors from there. So we have yellow. I'm going to mix some white and then a little bit of my orange. I need more white. Let's figure out what color this comes to. And there's a little bit too much orange. I'm going to go in with more yellow. Alright, I like this, so I'm going to take some of this over here, some of it over there. So I just kind of split it up into 3 different piles. So this is my main yellow, and then I'm going to add a tiny bit of brown to one, and a tiny bit of orange. Maybe a little bit more. And I'm like barely grabbing any. I think I want a tad bit more orange. And having these 3 different colors of leaves, even though they're all kind of the same color, having these 3 different colors in these leaves will help give the tree a little bit of dimension. So then we have the kind of the golden yellow, the mid yellow, and then I'm going to have a tiny bit of a green yellow. So I'm just going to scrape off some of this blue and add that to this yellow. And because it darkened with the blue, I'm going to add a little bit of white to it. Okay, go with that. So now I'm going to grab a filbert brush, and the filbert brush is really great for leaves in the distance, because leaves in the distance look round in the top and then they kind of go out. So with this, I'm going to grab my filbert brush and grab some of this green, the green yellow. It's not really green yellow, but it is green yellow. And I'm just going to, first, it needs to have some sort of branch to go off of. I'm just going to put in some of these that go kind of off into the distance, so they're really, really tiny branches and you can kind of barely see them. That's good enough. But I'm going to grab some of this and I'm just going to place it downwards. And you're just going to, I'm barely touching the canvas. I'm going to add some of this yellow. So for the ones in the distance, this one works great. I'm going to add these kind of yellow ones at first. And then slowly we're going to get darker. gonna use this, my darker color that I created over here to the back end of it. And then I'm gonna go even darker and I'm actually going to mix this yellow color with more brown to create the color that I'm going to do up here. And for some of these, my brush is kind of going a bit sideways. As long as like the edge of it is pointing down, so that you get that kind of like look of leaves, then that's fine. I'll get a bit lighter up here. And you're okay to go over the branches. Just make sure that you don't cover up all of the blue, because then it will look too much. Back to the green over here. And I'm gonna go ahead and grab a filbert brush, or sorry, a fan brush. Go ahead and put in some ones that are a little bit off to the off in the distance. And I'm only using the tip of it. just to add some like smaller textures and dots in here. And I'm just changing up the colors as I feel like they should be. And then once you get like the majority of it in there, we're gonna go ahead and finish up our tree, like the side of it. So I'm gonna take this brown and this yellow. And I'm going to put it on only the right side of the tree. And you can add it in little stripes if you want to add some like bark texture. Remember, you can always come back and add in your darks if you need to. So for instance, where this branch is, add that. Add where this branch is, you can add the dark back in there. Put in any lines that I feel like I should have there. give a little bit of texture to the bark. And if you don't know what you're doing, just do it and then kind of like sit back a little bit and you're like, oh, that actually does look good. I'm going to come back with a little bit more highlight, a little bit whiter. I'm going to take my round brush and start adding some closer leaves, and I'm just going to use my round brush, the tip of it, as like the part of it that looks like the tip of the leaf. And that's what's going to be the ones that are closer. Just make sure that the leaves are going in all different directions. And you just keep adding and adding and adding. And then as you're going, go ahead and just add some leaves to the bottom. And I'm doing that by just placing my brush on the canvas. Make sure that they're not all perfectly spaced. You have a couple that are close to each other. You have some that are closer and some that are not as close. You can come back with your black and put some shadow next to it if you want to be that detailed. And then lastly, you're going to take your liner brush, if you have a liner brush. You're going to grab your, essentially the green that is the lightest here, which means you have your white, your yellow, and your green. Make sure you have a good amount of water. And you can put in some long pieces of grass. And that just adds just a little bit of character and detail. All right. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna do a little bit more of a highlight on the bench. Just right here, I just feel like it needs a little bit more highlight. But that is pretty much it. Thank you so much for joining me. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too. Make sure that you share your painting with me. I would love to see it. I have a Facebook group on Facebook, so make sure to, I'm gonna post my page right now, and that's where you can get all the updates for pretty much everything, everything class related, Patreon, different things going on. I have a giveaway coming up in a few days, so if you would like to be a part of that, make sure to go over and follow me on Facebook. Here is the artist community. I just posted it in the links, so if you would like to share your work with everyone who also took this class, feel free to go over there. I will be posting mine in probably the next 15 minutes, and then you can just add it to that same album, and then it's all contained in that album. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you next week. Oh, next week is I believe it's next week. Let me look at the calendar. Yes, next week is my first ever watercolor class. So if you have never done watercolors, or you love watercolors or you've never done them and you want to try them, we are doing Christmas cards, our annual Christmas card class. So make sure to RSVP for that, or just click the reminder on the YouTube. Just go to my YouTube channel. But we are doing watercolors for that class. You can do acrylics if you want to, but I will be teaching in watercolors, which is really fun. So make sure to put that on your calendar, and we will see you next week. Bye, guys.